Hello everyone. It's August 2025, a lovely Tuesday. Today, I'm pulling a really interesting trending article from the archives. It's one of those papers that makes you go, oh, that's actually super clever. Let's get right into it. The title is Transphylemy via Lexical Relatedness, the Sarcasm and Hate Speech Case Study. The quote is, or of about time received about 8.16,000. It's long, so let's break this down. We all know the internet can be, well, a bit of a dumpster fire sometimes, right? As social media companies are always trying to clean it up using AI moderators. And here's the problem this paper is trying to solve. These AI moderators are pretty good at catching really obvious, explicit hate speech. You know, the stuff with clear slurs and direct insults. But they're terrible at catching sneaky stuff, the implicit hate speech. This is the kind of hate that's hidden behind the layer of sarcasm, or irony, or just clever wording. It's like someone saying if it's white, it's red. There are no obvious slurs in there. But the hateful meaning is totally clear to a human. And it just gets confused. It sees the words and thinks, okay, nothing to flag here. And that's a huge problem because a lot of online toxicity uses this kind of coded, implicit language to fly under the radar. The researchers here had a really cool idea. They thought, what if the problem is that we're trying to teach the AI to run before it can walk? Implicit hate and sarcasm actually have a lot in common. They both rely on context, on the tone not matching the literal words. They're both forms of indirect communication. So the main idea of a big brain moment of this paper is, what if we teach an AI to understand sarcasm first? If we can train a model to get good at spotting sarcasm, maybe that skill would transfer over and help it get better at spotting implicit hate speech. Instead, sending the AI to sarcasm school before making it a hate speech moderator. And that's exactly what they did. They used a technique called sequential transfer learning. It sounds uncomplicated, but the idea is simple. First, they took a powerful language model, specifically one called Bergpilsen, and trained it on a huge dataset of sarcastic comments from Reddit. So the model just spent all its time learning the patterns of sarcasm. Then, after it graduated from sarcasm school, they took that same model and fine-tuned it on datasets containing hate speech, both the implicit and explicit kinds. The hope was that the skills it learned about indirect language from sarcasm would make it way more effective at its new job. So did it work? Well, yeah, it worked beautifully. The results are actually super impressive. When they tested the model that had been pre-trained on sarcasm, its ability to detect hate speech got way better. On one dataset called Ethos, its recall shot up by 9.7%. That means the model was able to identify almost 10% more of the actual hateful content. It was catching more of the bad stuff that the known such a model was missing. That is a huge improvement in the world of content moderation, and its overall accuracy measured by something called an Funsor also jumped by 6%. Even better when they tested it specifically on just the tricky implicit hate speech samples. This precision went up by nearly 8%. This means the model got better at identifying real hate speech, without just starting to flag everything that looked a little edgy. It didn't get confused and think all sarcasm was hate, which is a really important balance to strike. So how does this apply to our everyday lives? Well, this is massive for making online platforms safer. Think about YouTube, X, Facebook, all of them. Their automated systems miss so much of the set. Coded harassment that makes these platforms toxic for so many people. This research offers a practical way to make those systems smarter. By training their AI on sarcasm first, it could catch more of the trolls and bad actors who know how to hide their hate in plain sight. This could lead to a genuine reduction of online harassment and make online communities healthier and more welcoming. Let's dig into some specific applications. First, bots and dialogue systems. Imagine a community management bot on a platform like Discord. Right now, a bot might not be able to tell the difference between a user being sarcastically annoying and a user being genuinely abusive in a subtle way. But trained with this method could understand that nuance. It could de-escalate the situation with the sarcastic user, while correctly flagging and reporting the user posting covert hate speech, alerting human moderators before things get out of hand. Second, information extraction and text summarization. This is super useful for things like brand reputation management. Companies use tools to scan social media for mentions of their brand. With this technology, a tool could differentiate between someone sarcastically saying, "I just lived a new update that broke everything," versus someone posting subtle, hateful comments about the company or its employees. This gives a company a much more accurate assessment of public sentiment, allowing them to separate valid, sarcastic criticism from actual online attacks. Third, this one is a little more indirect, is machine translation. Purely literal translation often fails because it misses tone and intent. Sarcasm is notoriously hard to translate. A translation model that understands these rhetorical devices could be much more accurate. Example: instead of literally translating a sarcastic English phrase into another language, which might make no sense, it could translate it into an equivalent sarcastic phrase in that language. This is crucial for preventing misunderstandings, especially when translating content that might be subtly hateful. It helps preserve the true meaning for better or for worse. Now, the paper is also honest about the challenges. This isn't a magic bullet. One of the biggest issues is that the data we use to train these models can be biased. The models might learn to associate certain identity-related words, like gay or black or woman, with hate speech, even when they're used in a perfectly neutral and positive context. That's because these groups are often the targets of hate. So there's a real risk of the AI becoming biased itself. The researchers point out that we need to be really careful about data and statistics, and constantly checking the models for these kinds of biases. And in conclusion, what I love about this paper is how it tackles a really complex problem with such an elegant and logical solution. Instead of just trying to build a bigger, more complex model, they focused on giving the model the right kind of education first, by teaching it to understand the twists and turns of sarcastic language. It made it much better prepared to detect the hidden poison of implicit hate speech. It's a fantastic example of how understanding one area of language can unlock our ability to understand another. Really, really cool stuff.